Extension fees, warehouse recommendations, and the most challenging home staging job we've ever worked on. In episode 198 of Foxy TV, we asked Jake and Phoebe your questions. Let's jump straight in. As successful business owners, do you ever stop working like from 5 p.m. on is family time?
Yes and no. So the first answer is no. We keep working because it's always on our mind, and we've said in the past Phoebe and I don't really have an issue with that. We love Foxy, we love what we do. Having said that, we have kind of recognised that because of that we don't always maybe have the family time that we would want to, or the husband and wife time that we'd like to as much. So we have tried to be a little bit deliberate about that. So there are definitely, we do Friday date nights where we can and try and shut off everything. We try and organise things with the kids over the weekend. So yes and no, I guess is the answer.
How many styles are your stylists expected to pick for in a day?
So generally they will do one install, a pack up and one selection. And that selection is getting them prepped for their install the next day. Just depends on how the day's running, I guess. If anyone's running behind, if they are, then we chip in to help that person that's running behind.
How do you charge an extension fee after 6 to 8 weeks if the property hasn't sold?
So we own all our own furniture, so we have a little bit of flexibility in what we can charge there. I know that if in the early couple of years when we were hiring furniture, we were kind of dependent on what the third-party hire company would charge us to extend the furniture, and then we would basically on-charge that. Now what we do is we take our initial upfront cost, we take a percentage of that. I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head. I think it's somewhere around 14-15%. It's kind of we do an 8-week hire, and so to calculate our weekly cost, we divide our upfront number by 7-ish, and then we do an adjustment to that, which is very vague, but I can't remember exactly how that happens. And then what we also do is if people want to extend for more than 1 week at a time, we'll do a pay for 3 weeks, and we'll give you the fourth free if you kind of commit early so that we have a bit of certainty for us.
What's the most challenging home staging project you've ever worked on? And how did you sort of deal with it, if something comes to mind?
I don't have a specific project, but I think probably the most difficult trait, I guess, that we would encounter is a client who hasn't quite let go of their home yet. So having us come through and presenting the home in a different light to what they had lived in it, and requesting changes to have it similar to how they had it function, and not being able to have a very open and transparent on our part, but being blocked off to that communication and ignoring us as the experts as we've been engaged in that situation. That's probably the most difficult conversation that we have with clients. I can't give an example of a specific property. We do a lot of integrated styles where we're working with clients who are still living in their home, and I think that's where it comes up the most. But that would be probably the most tricky thing we have.
What's the percentage of properties that don't sell or that do sell, whichever way you want to look at it, within the 6 to 8 week period?
Yeah, look, I don't want to say a number right now because I don't know. I would be guessing. We've looked at our numbers in the past, and obviously it's very market dependent and timing dependent. We went through a period just after COVID when the market was going, it was very hot. We had something like 96% sell within that 6 to 8 week period. So it was almost everything was selling, and the average kind of time from install to pickup was around the 4 or 5 weeks, even though it's an 8-week hire period because everything was selling so quickly. Right now, that number would definitely be down a little bit. It's still fairly high, and again, I don't know the exact numbers, but I, at a guess, would say somewhere around the 85 to 90% within that 6 to 8 week period, and we're starting to see some faster sales kind of over the last month-ish as well, starting to pick up again. How do you work with homeowners, clients, to incorporate their personal style requests into a staging process?
Yeah, so we don't do that. So we're here to present a home to as many people as we can, and part of that is we're not here to produce we're not here to create your vision. That's what interior design is. We're not here to create your home and how you would like it to be perceived. We're there to make it present as great as we can to the target market we're trying to point it to, using on-trend pieces that are being received really, really well by buyers. And if the other part is the home needs to be presented as in its best light. So if we walk in and the client says, I love Hamptons, I just want my home to be styled blue and white and I want it to be like just Hamptons, I'll have a very open discussion with them about why that's not in the best interest for their property. And to achieve the best sale price, we really need to style your 90s brick home in a more of a traditional warm style. 9 times out of 10, that conversation is fantastic. They appreciate the honesty and openness, and will proceed down presenting it in its best light. That other 10%, we're not really going to be the client. They're not going to be the clients we work with because we're not willing to really negotiate on that because we're not here to do it. It's not the best interest for the property.
We are hoping to move into a warehouse soon. What mats/floors would you recommend?
Well, it depends what it's for. I mean, we have, the warehouse we're in now, it was freshly painted floors. So we put our shelving up and we like that. It's a nice clean look. And I guess, for sofas, for instance, we have a lot of offcuts of carpet. We roll those out so there's something soft and we stand the sofas up on their end for storage in the warehouse. We have just the kind of gym mats, I think. People use them as flooring in their home gyms. We use that for storing or leaning our glass on, so nice and soft, but quite thick. We have obviously all of our shelving. I'm trying to think what other flooring we have. There's probably not a whole lot. Everything's off the floor. Anything that needs to be touching the floor is, on its feet, if it's a chair or a table or anything like that. We also do use some of our pads or the mats from the truck, the removalist pads. We use those sometimes to help store, a table on top of another table just to protect it.
Underrated. Physical books.
I would say underrated because I don't read as much as I'd like to. I used to read a lot more, but I still, a good book I really enjoy reading.
Overrated.
Emojis as a way to communicate.
I'd say, I think I've changed on this just because it's not always easy to communicate via text without, hearing the tone and everything like that. So I would say it's underrated. Because sometimes just an emoji is a good way to kind of set the tone of what the message is trying to say.
Underrated. Jake thinks it's immature, but I like it.
The Women's World Cup in Australia this year.
Underrated. Bring it on. I'm excited for it.
Rated.
Last one. Feature door knockers.
Ooh, don't see them very often. Do you know what? I'm going to say unnecessary. But I'm going to say underrated because nobody really has them anymore.
Overrated. Overrated. I do like a feature front door painted in a different colour. I think like a soft pink or a blue, not red, but those looks great.
Thanks so much for watching this episode of Foxy TV. If you have any questions, topics, or something you'd like covered in a future episode, leave it in the comments wherever you're watching this video. Otherwise, we'll see you on the next episode.